Welcome to Women's Million Dollar Conversations with Alice Tang, where we share stories from successful businesswomen who have saved, earned, or sold over $1 million and discuss how they built their success and insights to help you achieve your goals. Now, let's join the conversation.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Tang. I would like to welcome Hannah Austin, one of my favorite authors, here with us. And she is going to share with us about her journey to $1 million net worth and beyond. Hannah, welcome. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself? And we're going to dig into a lot of funny things that we read from your book and verify with you. How does success look like and what does money mean to you? That's the meaning of Woman's Million Dollar Conversation.
Thank you so much, Alice, for having me today. I guess I'll start with born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska. And when I was 6 and then again at 10, my parents quit their jobs and we traveled around the world. So I've lived in all different countries throughout my entire life and found out that I loved the Northwest and went to college here in Oregon State. And then pretty much spent my last 20-year career in healthcare. So I left Kaiser Permanente right when the pandemic started and decided to launch my company, She Shatters. And I'm sure we'll get into that later, but currently live in the Pacific Northwest with my husband and my mini Bernedoodle.
Oh, that's beautiful. Since this is about women and money, right? So first question is, what's your value of money?
Ooh, if you would have asked me this probably in my teens, it would have been different, 20s, 30s. But now that I'm in my mid 40s, I would say to me that money is all about freedom, opportunity, and frankly, stewardship and goodwill. So that's my 4 words for when I think about money.
Beautiful answer. Now, is Million Dollar Woman's Conversation. We invite guests like yourself who save, made, or earn $1 million. So we're going to focus on the first bogey, $1 million. How long does it take for you to either make, earn, or save $1 million?
Yeah, it's so weird, Alice, to even be considered for this podcast because I don't think of that. I don't think like I'm a millionaire. Certainly, when I meet with my financial advisor and they show us the numbers, sometimes I'm like, really? And I still shop at Target. Like I'm still the same girl as I was before. But it took me and my husband, definitely a partnership. It took me, I think, probably till my mid 30s to really gain that net worth. And it was a combination of smart real estate ideas, certainly business decisions that we made, and I literally give my true testament and the self worth and the self made money to my parents. My mom specifically, she actually helped me loan me the money for my first house when I was 21 years old. And that started my real estate journey. But I would say kudos to my mom, knowing that loaning a young woman money at such an early age would then turn into a legacy.
Wow, thank you, Mom. We all have a mom that is super proud of me, you,
Mhm.
and the fact that they are willing to help at your age
Mhm.
21. I
Yes.
am assuming that you are very trustworthy. You have always been good because we all heard about these stories, right? When you give $50,000 to a young kid, what
Mhm,
happened?
mhm.
Oops.
Yeah. I think my mom understood early on, especially as a single mom for so many years, how important the value of money and investment was. She also was very smart with that. She loaned me the money, but then when I bought and sold my first house and then moved on to the next one and then moved on to the next one, she was very smart in saying, I want to be able to buy the house back and with interest. So my parents taught me not only the value of money, but the value of business and how important it is to have something signed on the dotted line with interest. And so now when I think about the business decisions that my husband and myself make, we're very smart in looking over the contracts. We're also very smart in figuring out, is it money that we can just roll the dice on? Is it money that we can risk just throwing away? Sometimes investments, you have to think of them as, if I never see this money again, is it going to be okay? And sometimes it's a decision where you have to really look and read the writing behind the contract.
Sometimes we have family members or loved ones who always are in need.
Mhm, mhm,
Hopefully, you don't have one. I am in the financial advisor world, so we heard about these stories, whether
mhm.
we're talking to the father or the grandfather or the mother or the grandmother, there's always somebody who's always in need of money. They're bad not to help them, but every single time you enable them, they come back and ask for more.
Correct.
So when is the time to draw a line? Maybe a contract like yours is going to help out, because until you paid off your loan, I don't have the $50,000 to loan to your brother number two or number three.
Right. Yeah. I think often people are misguided in the sense that they feel a sense of duty. I didn't mention the word duty under money, but it has been interesting, Alice, to see as our network has increased who's staying around and who's not, to be really honest with you. So we try not to explain or share our financial interests with everybody and their dog, right? But it's really important that we make sure that we're aligned and have people in our lives that are givers and takers when they need to be, because it can't always be takers, to your point.
Yes, absolutely. We're going down to the next question. Is there any hurdles that you have hit? What is the biggest challenge to get there? And if you don't
Yeah.
mind sharing, what is it? And how do you overcome it?
Yeah, I think the challenge is what I touched on earlier, the fact that as a young woman and you want to be a CEO and you want to climb the ladder, and that's always your goal. Like in the 80s and the 90s, $1 million was a lot of money. Now it's not the same as it was before due to inflation and just life. Once I hit that mark, my husband and I, we both look at each other and go, we're at such a young age. Is this real? What do we actually do with our money? And it's really helpful to have kind of that thought provoking discussion of how does this change our life? And then how can we change others' lives? I have to tell you, Alice, that because we don't have kids, a lot of our conversations are what is our legacy going to be? And who are we going to leave this legacy, emotional legacy, and also financial legacy? So that's been really interesting to have those discussions around what does money mean to us?
That's beautiful. On to the next question. What is the number one piece of advice to the audience, especially the woman who's looking up to you and say, hey, I can relate to Hannah?
Yeah. I guess I would say know what you are spending your money on and know how to earn it, right? I think there's so many women now who have their regular day job and then they also have a side hustle, right? So know how much money to live on in your regular day job. And if you do have a side hustle, how much money are you spending, dumping, investing in a company to try to keep the lights on in your everyday life, but also have this potential dream? And so when I started She Shatters and then I had my own career, it's really around what money do you have to live on? How do you keep the lights on? How do you live your day-to-day life? And then how do you fuel your passion on the side to see, what that gift or that dream could be? So I think knowing what's going in and going out, the inputs and the outputs, but specifically, is there or are there organizations or is there real estate or some type of investment that you can make early on in your 20s and 30s? If I wouldn't have purchased my first house at 21, then rolled it to a second and then a third, and now we have several commercial properties, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So you have to start early. I do have a niece right now that I've talked to her about making sure she's buying as many rental properties as possible. And I really wish I would have done that in my 20s and 30s because I could have retired sooner and earlier. But I do think it's important to understand the ins and the outs, what's happening, what's going in, what's going out, and have a real strategic conversation with yourself, Alice, and your friends, your network of female friends around you to say, what does money really mean to you? Because frankly, a lot of us blow it on things, shopping at Target or shopping at Nordstrom's. Of course, we love stuff like that, but are there things that you can actually enjoy and treat yourself on? But also, to me, a treat is saving money and investing in real estate or something else that's going to treat me later in my life. And trust me, you will thank both Alice and I for that advice.
Yes, yes, start early and don't stop.
Right.
And I think retirement is really today, we laugh at it because there are people who are dying to retire. The 60+% of the people might not like their job or even totally not like their
Yes.
job. But I believe we are at least in the smaller percentage of 40%. I love what I do. If I get to
Yeah.
do this every day, why not?
And retirement, I think, looks different now. Now it's what, 2024? Retirement to me, when I started working in the 90s and 2000s, I was like, oh, retirement, I'm going to be able to live on the beach or do this or do that. A lot of people think that retirement is just not doing anything. But you know as well as I do, Alice, retirement is just another phase of life of maybe I'm doing something to fuel my passion, or maybe I am starting a company that I've wanted to do my entire life. So retirement isn't an ending, it's a beginning.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Next question. How do you process big decision? What steps do you take? Or I just go with my gut. I go to meditate for a week in Italy or some beach in Indonesia and come back and, oh,
Yeah. I think if you would have asked me this before, right before I left Kaiser Permanente, my day job, I would have told you I make decisions logically with my head. And I think that's honestly, Alice, what led me to burnout. I was just going on to the next decision. It was almost like an assembly line of decisions, especially being an operations based person. But since I've launched She Shatters and since I wrote the book is titled Hello Head, Meet Heart. I really realized in my 40s, for those that are listening, don't do this like I did, don't do it too late. Is I really decided to marry my head and heart. And what I mean by that is, if there's a decision that I have to make, I think logically about it. I write a pros and cons list. That's great. It's doing my due diligence. But if it doesn't feel right, if the word should comes up or have to comes up, I know immediately to check my heart and gut and say, do I feel aligned with this decision? And I will tell you, since the last 2.5 years, starting my company and writing a book, it's really made me realize, is this the life I truly want to live? And I have the luxury of doing so mentally and financially. But it's been a real gut check for me to say, are those two aligned? And if the answer is yes, have at it, move forward. If the answer is no, it's a kind of a jog for the memory to say, you need more information. You need to start exploring, maybe ask some more questions or shadow someone or whatever else it is. But don't just go with your first instinct.
know your values and your intent and
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself if it aligns with that
Mm-hmm.
when you make a decision. That's Hannah's good advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are times when you're studying, let's focus on your current business. She
Yeah.
shatters because you're speaking all over the country. There are times when you're unsure, right? Even you check
Mm-hmm.
your gut, you check your heart, check your head.
Yeah.
And at a low point when you contemplating, is this really? How do you come through?
Yeah, I think if you read the book and then the first page is really me on the bathroom floor contemplating ending my life. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic. It was really a dark time in my life. And for me, I was making decisions with my head and I couldn't stop. I was addicted to making operational decisions. I didn't know how to get out of my head. And I asked for help. I asked for help in a variety of ways. For the first time in my life, I asked for help, Alice, which was hard for me, hard for a type A personality that's always a gung ho. And so for me, I think the key is vulnerability, asking for help, reaching out to your network. I know you're super good at this. The people that you know and the women and the people that are in your community, everyone has an expert on something. So lean into them and start asking them, what should I do? Or what are your thoughts? Or I'm starting to feel like this doesn't feel right. Help me or check me or ask me some questions. And that is the moment I think where it's two hands are meeting and it's basically saying, okay, there is a road to somewhere. I don't know what it is or how to find it, but I'm reaching out and asking for help. Never could I have imagined, Alice, that me starting to ask for help was a true catalyst for me stepping into a life that was so much more fulfilling than I ever knew. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million if you don't know what you want to do with your life. It's $1 million in the bank. It's just going to sit there, right? You can spend it. But if you have a net worth of something, right? The net worth has to match your worth inside. And so that's the true alignment of the money, the passion, the internal compass where you feel like everything's aligned. And then only then do I think that you can start to build an extraordinary life.
That's so cool. Lying on the floor, I read that page, I almost cried because I
Mm,
haven't lied on the floor as bad as that. But there are times when you say you're hitting your head towards the wall
yeah.
and you saw blood, but you thought you need to continue because this path must go through.
Yes.
The fact
Yes.
is, we haven't even had the time to seek the wisdom to tell the difference between what we cannot do about and what is something that we could do about.
Mm-hmm.
What is one thing you would do differently in your choices and decision or your career? Of course, you have turned a
Mm.
chapter, right, from a very successful executive to owning your own business and sharing your message based on your experience.
I would have looked up. I would have looked up more, and I mean that physically and I think emotionally in my career. I would have looked up to see the road ahead instead of I'm going to be COO and this is how it's going to be and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. I would have looked up a little bit more and said, does this feel right? Checked in with myself a little bit more, checked in with my husband to say, is this working for our life? I'm not coming home for dinner. I'm exhausted. I'm not in a good spot emotionally. And I think in looking up at life, it would have been, is there another road that I could have gone down to get to the same place or a new place or somewhere faster versus slogging through? Sometimes I think as women, we feel like it has to be hard. And I wish I would have gone easier on myself.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Is there a recent book that you're reading right now or a piece of very bad advice that has impacted your life?
I'm getting ready to go to Baja for a month. I leave Friday and I'm reading 2 books that they've recommended as homework. And so I'm learning to be a student again. I wasn't liking the books, I'll be honest. Yesterday I started one of them and then this morning I started another one, reading them in tandem. And they're not my books, right? I want to read something a little more pleasurable and enjoyable. But I told myself, stick in, do 50 pages each. And I started reading more in each of the books and it made me realize, okay, this is like the story of my life. If you're not liking the course, try a little more, see what you think, and then 50 pages in. If you still don't like it, move on. But I'm still 50 pages in on each and I'm moving forward.
Great, great. Last question. What are you grateful for?
Ugh, I wouldn't have said this before. Once you hit 40, everything goes downhill. You have one good arm and one good leg. For me, I'm falling apart. No, just kidding. I would say, first and foremost, my health and the people around me. My husband had a stroke a couple years ago. You and I talked about this. When you have someone in your life who's ill and you're the person that is their person, you're also ill. It also affects you. So, health is the first thing. And then the second thing is just love, right? Loving myself, learning to love myself, learning to love those around me, letting more people in. Alice, I think about that woman, me on the bathroom floor 2.5 years ago. I didn't think I was going to go on, right? So, what else is there in your life other than health and love? And so, those are my 2 words for 2024.
Health and love. Love it. So today we are honored to have Hannah Austin giving us precious time of her life. And I know she's busy dealing with her high demand gigs, traveling around the country, although she's taking a month off. We just heard in Baja.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So we're grateful for you. Thank you so much.